A moment's silence to mark the death of a Supreme Court justice announced just before the Republican debate, and the question of a replacement for Antonin Scalia dominated early exchanges. The question, should President Obama appoint a new justice as the Constitution says, the Republican consensus, not in an election year.
I think he's going to do it whether I'm okay with it or not. I think it's up to Mitch McConnell and everybody else to stop it. It's called delay, delay, delay.
I think that we ought to let the next President of the United States decide who is going to run that Supreme Court with a vote by the people of the United States of America.
Ted Cruz highlighted the political significance of the Supreme Court, which decides on important constitutional questions.
The Senate needs to stand strong and say, we're not going to give up the U.S. Supreme Court for a generation by allowing Barack Obama to make one more liberal appointee.
There was a bitter exchange on the role the last Republican president played in the war in Iraq. Jeb Bush was happy to defend his brother from an aggressive Donald Trump, who said he'd lied.
Jeb is so wrong. Jeb is absolutely so.
I'm a guy who gets his foreign policy from the shows.
Oh,
this is a guy who thinks that Hillary Clinton was a great negotiator in Iran. We're living in dangerous times. This is a man who insults his way to the nomination.
Marco Rubio had an awful debate in New Hampshire, but he seemed to get back in the groove here, launching this attack on Ted Cruz on the subject of immigration.
Look, this is a disturbing pattern now, because for a number of weeks now, Ted Cruz has just been telling lies. Right. He lied about Ben Carson in Iowa. He lies about Planned Parenthood. He lies about marriage. He's lying about all sorts of things, and now he makes things up.
This was a bad night for Donald Trump, his most incendiary performance yet, and he came under attack from almost everyone. But the reality is, here in South Carolina, he still leads the polls by more than 20 points. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham says the death of Justice Scalia makes the Supreme Court nomination a huge election issue.
If you don't win the election, you can't appoint a Supreme Court justice. So I hope conservatives will look at this as an opportunity to make sure that we nominate somebody that can actually win the White House.
This was by far the loudest, angriest debate, a sign of how this contest is tightening, how important South Carolina will be, and how the stakes for the men who want to be president are getting higher. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, at the Republican debate in Greenville, South Carolina.